Commentary comes from Martin Brundle and David Croft.
We've switched the lights on. Welcome along to the middle of the desert and the Sakir circuit. It is qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix, the second round of 21 in 2018, and the race for the Formula One World Championship is very much on. It's the 14th World Championship Bahrain Grand Prix, where Pole in the past has only won 5 of the previous 13 races. Just under 1.5 million people live in Bahrain. This is very much their sporting highlight of the year, and the circuit looks an absolute picture under the spotlights. The first race here back in 2004, the first ever Formula One race to be held in the Middle East, and it's been held under the lights since 2014, when nobody has finished on the podium from outside the top 2 rows on the grid. This is the track itself, 3.36 miles long, 15 corners, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and you take it for those 3.36 miles at full throttle for 63% of your lap. There are 8 braking zones, 4 are heavy, 1 is into turn 1, where anything can happen. Just ask Pastor Maldonado and Esteban Gutierrez, who clashed in 2014. Throughout the track, there are opportunities to overtake. Ask Nico Rosberg or Lewis Hamilton what a duel they put on in the desert in that same year. And in the race start itself, it gets very chaotic throughout that opening lap, with cars jockeying for position on a track that rewards careful driving. It's very abrasive. It puts a lot of stress on the tyres. You have to be very careful with that throttle to try and get out of those slow corners without damaging the super soft, the soft, or the medium compound tyres. The fountains are on. It's the only water you're going to see here this evening, Martin Brundle. It does look an absolute picture. But for the teams, the headache from practice in the sunshine to competing now under the lights and the cooler temperatures.
The track does look amazing, as you say, David. Track temperature of 32 and falling. It's obviously similar to what they're going to get in the race tomorrow evening. Ferrari look as if they have a single lap pace that's going to be very difficult to challenge, to beat. And we know about Lewis Hamilton's 5-place grid drop. Anyway, he cannot start from the front row, whatever happens today. In fact, he can't start from either of the 2 rows at the front, can Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately for him. But will Red Bull be able to get in amongst the Ferraris? Can Bottas save the day for Mercedes and mix it up with the Ferraris? We're going to find out shortly.
Valtteri Bottas, the pole sitter this time last year here in Bahrain. Fernando Alonso, a man who's won 3 times at this circuit before. He, together with Sebastian Vettel, hold the record for the most victories in Bahrain. Sebastian Vettel having a few problems of his own during the course of the practice session. Barge boards falling off and limiting his running as well. So Kimi Raikkonen was the fastest man in the final practice session. 2 out of the 3 sessions he has topped so far. He's never been on pole here before. Could it happen for the Kimster tonight?
He's fast around here, he knows the place, and he just seems in a bit of a mood to show everybody that stop talking about me being replaced and who's going to replace me. And paddock talk again today that it will be Daniel Ricciardo that replaces him at Ferrari. That's paddock talk, I underline. But Kimi just seems like when he's in or out of the car on a mission. The softer grade of tyres this year suit him, whatever they've done to the 2018 Ferrari 2. And he has been, you have to say, the fastest Ferrari driver so far this year.
Quickest man in FP2, and the driver topping FP2 has won in Bahrain for the past 2 years in a row. Is it a chance for Ferrari, and a great chance for Ferrari, to get their first pole here since 2007? Could Red Bull get their first pole since 2012? Could this man be on pole once again? Where can Lewis Hamilton put his car in the mix? And a word on those Mercedes. Martin, you've been out trackside, and you didn't really like the look of what you saw and the way that Mercedes was handling some of the corners.
Certainly in the warmer temperatures. We talked to Toto about this, Toto Wolff of Mercedes, in the pre-show. But you just watch Lewis Hamilton constantly wrestling the back end of the car, not enough rear grip. They had a similar issue here last year. The Ferrari looks much more painted to the road, much more stable. Green light we have. Qualifying 1 is open, 18 minutes to go. We're about to lose 5 drivers in this next 18 minutes from proceedings. The Royal Tower there with a bird's eye view of the first few corners, and then again as they cascade what is actually quite a hill down into 9 and 10 behind that tower. And the heli-telly there looking, it's a great shot, isn't it? So look at the interesting mirrors there on the Ferrari where the air passes through them. Mirrors on a Formula 1 car tend to be about as useful as a chocolate fire guard in terms of seeing too much behind you. And we got some pointers, Crofty.
Yeah, some qualifying pointers from Mark Hughes as Sergei Sorokin makes his way onto the track, and also Brendan Hartley. Hamilton's gearbox penalty moves him further towards a one-stop strategy, says Mark, and as such there's extra impetus for him to do Q2 on the soft tyre rather than the super soft, so as to have a longer opening stint. Remember, the tyres you go through to Q3 on are the tyres you start the race on. Such a Hamilton move in Q2 might be countered by Ferrari and or Red Bull doing the same. Does it make sense for Red Bull, with their excellent race pace from yesterday, to split their strategy, I wonder? A big opportunity for last year's pole sitter Valtteri Bottas to take huge advantage of his teammates' misfortune. Can McLaren get a car, two cars into Q3? Will they possibly be under pressure from Toro Rosso, who, it has to be said, Martin, have looked the surprise package in terms of a Q3 appearance from what we've seen so far?
Yes, they've got a new aero package on that. Honda have put some new motors, some new pieces inside the motor as well, so they're already on their second internal combustion engine, ICE as it's known, but they've had a great turn of speed around here. You'll see a white light underneath the front of the car. I get lots of questions on Twitter as to what that is. It's to give a ride height reference that for the telemetry and for many other aspects. It's a critical piece of information, just as there is, for example, tyre pressures, tyre temperatures, the way the suspension is moving, and all sorts of things. They're going brake pressures, and you'll see underneath it shows up particularly on the Toro Rosso where they're measuring the exact ride height of the front of the car.
So you might have just heard a few cars blasting past the start-finish line. Charles Leclerc and Marcus Ericsson out on track. Now, Ericsson out-qualified his teammate in the opening race of the season. There wasn't much in it. Leclerc has looked quite sharp for Sauber in the practice session so far, and both Saubers ahead of both Williams in practice this morning.
Focus on brake on tires, focus on brake on tires.
And Brendan Hartley still making his way in Formula 1. This is 6th qualifying session, and getting all the advice that he can handle on the super soft tyre. That Toro Rosso then, Martin, and heading off for his first hot lap of the evening.
Toro Rosso looks a bit dark out on track, doesn't it? But I must say the lights really bring out some of the colour schemes of these cars. And you can run nice and wide through turn 4. That's plenty wide enough. Let's see how much he has to lift the throttle. A bit more than I expected. That traditional stutter from the Honda engine. But it's certainly going better around here as they're getting ready. They're waiting for the pit wall to tell them. Now, and that's all about traffic management. That's when they're going to release that car. And everybody's waiting. Tyre blankets, front and rear jacks, man with a laptop there. Everybody, Mark Arnold there was just standing back with Kimi Räikkönen's drinks bottle. He's Kimi's trainer, and just suspended animation there. What a shot that was in the Ferrari garage.
Yeah, waiting for a gap, not just to put Kimi Räikkönen onto a part of the track where others aren't, that are already on the track, but to make sure that he's not going to get hampered when he comes around at the end of his outlap. Back with Brendan Hartley once again then, as Leclerc does a 1:31.7, Ericsson a 1:31.9 in the Sauber. One more corner to go for Brendan Hartley, who's comfortably up in the first sector on the two Saubers, but where's this time going to put him, I wonder, as he crosses the line now? He's third fastest, 1:32.7. He lost time in the middle sector.
Oh dear, not a great lap time at all. Kimi on the soft tyres, not the super soft tyres. The yellow marked soft tyres that he went out on. So
is that to get an indication and a feel for the soft tyre and to make an early decision about Q2 and the possible running now? That's where Hartley ran out of track and lost a bit of time at turn 11 as well.
Yeah, it didn't look too bad, did it, out there, in terms of, I mean, it looks like you're on sand, but it's not. It's painted to concrete out there. But no, I mean, obviously it's not good. It's not the right place to be, don't get me wrong, but it didn't look as bad as I expected, given the lap time we thought he might be doing.
I mean, there is a bit of sand out there as well. It just blows in from everywhere here, but it's not like a golf bunker, for instance. Kevin Magnussen, he's putting his foot down. 28.7 for him for the first sector. How unlucky was Kevin Magnussen, his teammate Romain Grosjean, for the opening race of the season. What a great position they were in. until those cross-threaded wheel nuts rob them of points.
We have a damaged front wing. We have a damaged front wing.
Hartley's gone a bit too wide for the good of the front wing. That's new packages they've got, aero packages on that Toro Rosso as well.
That might be an expensive error there from Brendan Hartley if they don't. The Ferrari is on the racing line there. That is not a penalty situation, but if you're going to park up and let somebody through, don't do it on the racing line.
Very much up. Kevin Magnussen absolutely flying compared to those that have completed a lap so far. As you would possibly expect, the Haas compared to the Saubers, or Hartley and the Toro Rosso.
You can sort of see a plume coming out of the back, can't you, when the light catches it in a certain way of that car, but a 30 flat, not too bad.
Q1 best time last year was a 1:30.8 by Lewis Hamilton. It's a 1:30.0 by Kevin Magnussen. If you want to know how much faster these cars are, we're already 8/10 up on last year's best Q1 time.
And Grosjean a 31.2. That was a lightning lap from Kevin Magnussen.
Valtteri Bottas has gone out on the soft compound tyre, as has Kimi Raikkonen. We're on board with Kimi now. And Lewis Hamilton has gone out on the super soft tyre. Paul di Resta, McLaren, splitting it already.
Yeah, an absolute stunning lap though from Magnussen there, Crofty. Now that saves him a set of tyres. That should easily come back, sit in the garage, and he can put on a better attack in Q2. And equally, if he gets to Q3, it gives him that extra chance to get up the grid. The balance of that car, watching the onboard, it was kissing every apex, nice and steady on the power. They really mean business, and I really think they could be the difference between splitting the midfield this weekend. The battle between Toro Rosso, Haas, McLaren, Renault, it was all a matter of 3/10. So every bit of confidence you've got is going to make the difference.
Here comes Kimi Raikkonen then. We'll judge Kevin Magnussen's time against Kimi's time. Kimi, a 1:28.9 on the soft compound tyre. Magnussen was on the super softs.
That's only 2/10 of pole position last year.
Yeah, 1:28.7 from Valtteri Bottas. That 1:28.7, by the way, an absolute lap record here at Sakir as well. I get the feeling that lap record is going to go tonight, Martin. Here's Sebastian Vettel, who looked very good through the first sector, up on Kimi Raikkonen, but lost time to his teammate as the lap went on. 1/10 of a second, separating the two Ferraris once again, as it was in Australia, in Raikkonen's favour.
But once again, they have easy pace, even amongst the traffic. Easy pace on a single lap in that Ferrari. At the moment, you know, you'd put your money on an all Ferrari front row, wouldn't you?
Well, it would take a brave man to bet against that. That is very true. Esteban Ocon, meanwhile, for Force India, you rather get the feeling he wouldn't mind qualifying just outside the top 10, keep alive their strategy hopes for tomorrow's race.
So we know that you said that you saw Lewis out there on the super softs. He's almost certainly going to have to go counter strategy, isn't he, Lewis, in the race from a grid position where he's going to get that 5-place drop for the gearbox change.
A yellow flag in sector 1, very briefly. Someone running a little bit wide, I would suggest on that one.
First round then to Ferrari. Bottas couldn't match either of them.
He did a 1:29.2, so he was 3/10 of Kimi Raikkonen, couple of tenths of Sebastian Vettel. Very much clear, though, of the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, who was mightily clear of his teammate Romain Grosjean, as you can see on the left-hand side. It just about made that corner, but I'm not surprised that was a sharp intake of breath.
Ambition ahead of adhesion there for the Force India driver, but he got it done, just about. But yeah, he just got a little bit too trigger-happy on the throttle.
Ocon goes 7th fastest, Perez 5th fastest. Bahrain, the last year it was, that he got knocked out in Q1. It's been solid and dependable ever since. As Kimi Raikkonen gets wheeled back into the garage, we await the first laps of Verstappen, Ricciardo, Sainz, Alonso and Van Dorn. Is this Red Bull, McLaren trying to save a set of tyres, Martin, putting pressure on the driver though, with only 8 minutes to go?
Let's just think why they would really need to save tyres. You're not going to get 3 runs in Q3, are you? We don't expect it to be a really super high degradation race where you're going to stop 2 or 3 or say 3 stop per race, is it? But we know they need to keep mileage off the engines because they've got to get them through 21 race season with just 3 of them.
All I would suggest.
Lock up there for Romain Grosjean. Sort of very reminiscent of last year. I thought they'd fix that problem.
If we're too slow on the slow lap.
just on the slow lap. So he's turned up in the braking zone of turn 1, probably trying to jockey himself around fast cars and slow cars without the right amount of tyre temperature, therefore pressure, therefore front ride height and brake temperature.
Now Verstappen is going quite slow as well. He has a lap time of a 1:29.3 though. The Williams of Sergei Sorokin making sure, so the Sauber I should say of Charles Leclerc keeping out of Verstappen's way there.
Williams are under pressure, aren't they, to get out of Q1 today?
How come I didn't get DRS? You didn't get DRS because on the pit straight there was a yellow flag at the time and they cut the DRS for the other straight at the same time.
Yeah, they disabled the DRS for a brief 30 seconds or so, and that's what would have hampered him. Now, Fernando Alonso has been out, Stoffel Van Dorn has been out, Eric Boullier is live on the McLaren pit wall. Eric, 12th and 15th after those first runs. That's a bit of a nervy few moments coming up for you guys, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's not exactly where we want to be. Yeah?
Did you lose out DRS as well? We just heard Esteban Ocon saying that they lost DRS on his lap. Was that a problem that affected you?
Yes.
So
that's obviously a lot of lap time lost around the lap.
What sort of tools have you got for extra qualifying mode? The Mercedes got about 1.5 tenths per lap. Can you match that with your Renault?
Well, I don't think Mercedes got only 1.5 tenths. I mean, we have a very there is a very little mode and a little bit more aggressive mode which doesn't match this number.
It's not exactly the hangover mode that you had last year. Mercedes have got the party mode, Eric, but in what sectors, in what part of the track do you think your car is strong here? Eric, I'll come back to you in 2 seconds.
Verstappen.
Max Verstappen has gone into the tyre barrier. Verstappen, whose race here ended last year, into the barriers with a brake problem, and on the exit of turn 2 he has gone off the track and into the barriers.
So I suspect he's gone wide up, taking a bit too much curb, unless something's broken on the car, which would be highly unusual.
Well, let's have a look here, Martin. Turn 1 heading up. Verstappen was just starting a hot lap.
So far so good. Now I bet he gets wide. This is turn 2. He's going to go out on the curb here, and no, he lost it in the apex.
And no way of recovering that whatsoever.
No, so the back starts to step out as he turns into the corner, actually. He didn't even get as far as getting too high on the curb, and takes a bite out of the wall. It plucks the front wheel off, which is always a nasty angle. And you have to hope that doesn't punch a hole in the chassis.
Are you all right, Max?
Yeah, all good.
So, reaction from Max Verstappen, frustration, annoyance, anger, maybe feeling that he is partly responsible for that or not. But let me take you back, Martin, to FP2. That's not the first car we've seen come a cropper on the exit of turn 2, where the drivers had little or no chance to try and recover it.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc had the same thing, didn't he, in the Sauber last night? But that was just getting greedy on the curb. The curb's unsettling the back of the car. But I believe, we'll look at this more closely, but I believe it started to get loose through sheer torque going through the rear tyres and not enough downforce, maybe not enough temperature in the tyres. He started to get loose already, and it's a corner. It's quite a tight left-hander, but they attack it absolutely full throttle, and it just simply wouldn't work.
Well, he gets a lift back to the pits here. As you can see, red flag, session stopped. So all those out on track attempting a lap at the time have had to stop their lap and come back into the pits again. There is time to get out there and put another lap in. A round of applause from the crowd there, but that's Verstappen done with in qualifying. So one of those that you thought, well, might just be there in the front 2 rows of this race, not going to make it.
Plays into Lewis Hamilton's hands, doesn't it, in terms of with his grid situation. That's one less of the top 3 teams he's got to pass. Assuming he gets through unscathed,
yeah, well, exactly. Hamilton with a 5-place grid penalty, of course, for a change in the gearbox. Doesn't seem to be, Martin, too much damage to the rear of that Red Bull. You were concerned immediately that there might be a possible damage to that just because of the angle the car went in.
No, I think I'd be amazed if he has any kind of gearbox issues, although you can get a bit of shock loading going through them. They're rather works of art, the gearbox is like a Swiss watch, but sometimes when you hit the front like that, the front wishbone can damage the chassis when it comes back into the car. So this is spot on. Let's see when he starts loosening up. Yeah, that was going round even before he got to the curve. It's touch and go with cause or effect. And I think the tail end was loose and then it kind of finished it off on the curb, didn't it? Let's have a look from this angle. Might just have been not enough. If he had to back off on his outlap, might have been not enough tyre temperature.
Just so reminiscent to the Sauber from yesterday. Ericsson didn't hit the barrier on that particular occasion. But there's Max Verstappen, who last failed to reach Q3 in China last year. We go to China next. He's going to fail to reach Q3 here today, I'm afraid. That is Max Verstappen out of qualifying. So another threat to the possible Ferrari pole goes by the wayside as well. Kimi Raikkonen at the moment ahead of his teammate by a tenth of a second. Fernando Alonso in the danger zone with 5 minutes to go, as is Sergei Sorokin and Lance Stroll as well. The Stroll family watch on from the back of the Williams garage. It is worth mentioning that Sorokin 18th fastest, Stroll currently slowest of all for a team, Martin, that only once have started outside the top 10 in Bahrain during this turbo hybrid era, and that was last year with Lance Stroll.
Yeah, they've certainly been struggling for pace through free practice. Of course, Verstappen's done a time that puts him through, so only 14 cars effectively will go in to Q2.
Yes, he won't get to Q3, but there's still there.
But he could start 14.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll start 14 plus any other penalties because he is through. You don't have your time deleted just because it went and took a bite out of the wall. You just don't get to play again.
Don't get to do it again. Session will restart in a couple of minutes' time. They're still trying to get that stranded Red Bull on the other side of the barriers.
It's always interesting when you see them lifted up like that, what their weight distribution is like and how many people you need hanging onto the front of it. It's clearly quite a well-balanced car, isn't it?
This is Fernando Alonso.
Which position we are?
Fernando, we will need to go again. We will need to go again.
I don't know why. Yeah.
Mate, don't worry. The DRS had us over there. Don't worry.
Yeah, but I don't understand why they put the DRS, you know, if it's green, the corner. Stupid.
As was explained, though, by Force India, the whole of the DRS, the drag reduction system, was disabled because of an incident on the main straight in one of the DRS zones.
Grosjean locking up and
That's
going
right.
deep. It was a very temporary yellow, but it did not. It's on the basis of, if you should be slowing down, the last thing we should be doing is giving you extra tools to go even faster.
But at a completely different part of the circuit, should there be an ability to keep one of the DRS zones open, because you're not being affected by any yellow flags or double waved yellows at that stage.
You're probably right there, Crofty, but that would be quite a system, wouldn't it, to switch off half the DRS, I'd imagine.
You need an extra thumb to press the button, wouldn't you?
Depends on where the cars were on the track, and it's probably better just to go, your lap is ruined, but you're right, if you're way past that zone, you can still keep the throttle pinned out the back there, but you don't get DRS.
Either way, he's going to have to go again, and hopefully he's got enough in terms of tyres to be able to do that properly. Stoffel van Dorn also in that danger zone as well, down in 13th fastest at the moment. So with the Red Bull now cleared away, the light is green once again, and we can get going once again. Quick update from Toro Rosso. Remember Brendan Hartley being told that he's got front wing damage? It could be because he hit a bird early in his lap, which obviously would have damaged the front wing and cost him a lot of lap time as well.
I wonder if that's why he went off the track then, if he just understeered clean off the track.
Possibly. Didn't salute the magpie, you see. You always got to salute the magpie when you see him.
Need to get some halos on those birds out there.
I hope the bird is okay. So with temperatures falling, 31 degrees the track temperature, 28 degrees the air temperature. That'll stay the same, but the track temperature dropping a bit. And normally when it gets a bit cooler, times get faster, teams in no hurry to come out straight away here.
Well, they're only going to get one run in, so they may as well time it. Of course, you as long as you cross the line to start the lap before the checkered flag, before the session stops, you can complete that lap, so plenty of time. It's 90 seconds to get around this circuit, 5.4 kilometres through the midline of it. They don't follow the midline of the track very often, of course, taking the racing line, but you get the gist.
So Hulkenberg has come out, Carlos Sainz has come out too. So Hulkenberg currently 9th fastest with a time of a 1:30.2. So yeah, with Alonso in that drop zone with a 1:31.3, but not getting the DRS at that time, you can see why Renault are out there.
Yeah, I can see the track being quite busy here with at least a dozen cars, Crofty.
So anyone from Daniel Ricciardo upwards safe, do you think?
So maybe 14 cars we're expecting on the track now.
And look, just as I say that, Kevin Magnussen pops out of his garage and onto the track.
Yeah, we'd expect 14.
Well, that's what we like, a nice busy end to a qualifying session. Sebastian Vettel in his...
And let's drive the outlap exactly how we practiced.
Vettel in his 200th race start this weekend for Ferrari on the same track that Fernando Alonso and Mark Webber both made their 200th start on as well.
You see, I think if you've done all the free practices, qualifying, you've gone to the grid. You've done the Grand Prix.
No, you haven't.
Yes, you have.
No, you haven't.
You've done it.
You've just started. When did you start work this morning? Sorry, when did you start work this afternoon?
You still got paid. If you had a crash in practice and broke your leg, you've still broken your leg. Yeah. You were at the Grand Prix.
Yeah,
You've done the Grand Prix.
I know.
It just so happens your car broke down going to the grid.
I know technically there are Grand Prix that you have injured yourself in that you weren't actually racing in because you got disqualified from, but that's a different matter. But no, if you're not there when the lights go out, you haven't started the race. Surely.
You're right. Well, yeah, I'm just winding you up because I know you really... but no, it's a race start. If you've been to a Grand Prix and signed on and gone out on the track, you've been to it. But you're talking start. See, there's little nuances, isn't there? You're talking about...
yeah.
Anyway.
Trouble is, we both support a football team who tend to start the match about 20 minutes after everyone else has. That's where it gets confusing. Right, under 2 minutes to go here. Let's start by focusing on Stroll, on Leclerc, on Sirotkin, on Alonso and Grosjean. Grosjean, with that scruffy first lap, very much in trouble here, whilst his teammate Kevin Magnussen is right up there in the top 10. And we're looking at Nico Hulkenberg at the moment, who's not exactly safe in that midfield.
No, there's a lot of drivers out of position. Sainz would be one of them in the Renault, certainly Grosjean and Alonso as well. And Mercedes driver getting back in, but that won't be for this session.
No, that's just sit and watch the TV for a while.
Great apex speed they could take in there now. Look how the front end just hangs on. That curious sort of wastegate noise you can hear occasionally. Sounds like a bag of nails. Very wide turn-in. That was perfect.
He's very much up so far on his previous best lap, Nico Hulkenberg. Marcus Ericsson, looking at him, driver in danger. I suggest there's a whole gaggle around him that will be holding their breath a touch between now and when they cross the line and work out where they are to finish off this session. Hulkenberg crosses the line, 9th fastest overall. He stays in that 9th position. Carlos Sainz goes 7th fastest, his teammate going a little bit quicker. We look now to Fernando Alonso, needs to get out of the bottom 5. Alonso does that, goes 12th fastest, good effort from him. Stoffel Van Dorn is right there in the danger zone at the moment, and Stoffel Van Dorn goes 12th fastest ahead of Fernando Alonso, drops him down just a little bit. Esteban Ocon will be the next driver to cross the line. Where's he? Well, there's his, there he is in his Force India coming down the back straight.
Alonso's under pressure here, he really is. There's some fast cars to go as well.
Exactly, Pierre Gasly being one of them, Grosjean being one of them, maybe Charles Leclerc as well. Ocon, 11th fastest, pushes Alonso down into 14th at the moment. See the checkered flag, that means that the session is now over, but those on a lap can complete it. Pierre Gasly drops Alonso to the fringes of the relegation zone. Ericsson, Grosjean, Sirotkin, Leclerc and Stroll are those below Fernando Alonso. Brendan Hartley crosses the line, should be safe for the time being. Grosjean doesn't improve his time. He is now out of qualifying. Marcus Ericsson stays 17th. Sergei Sirotkin is next to cross the line, along with Lance Stroll. Williams have had a horror in this qualifying session, and there is Charles Leclerc out on the track. He has had a spin, and that's ruined his qualifying lap as well. Fernando Alonso survives
by nothing. Look at the time. Look at his and Grosjean's time. Exactly the same time, but Alonso did his first, so he goes through to the 1,000th of a second. They're an identical lap time. Grosjean, the star in Melbourne to a large extent, doesn't get through to Q2.
Absolutely incredible. 3.36 miles, and any little mistake would cost Romain Grosjean, and there it is.
Yeah, it cost him a lot. Cost him a run at Q2.
That saved Fernando Alonso. This might have saved Fernando Alonso a bit as well, because Leclerc all at sea. Going through that final corner, it's so tricky, Martin. Just the grip that you want mechanically from the tyres, not there.
So stupid. I am so stupid. My bad.
It was a touch. New boy clumsy, that one. Back end started to get away from him, then you get the pendulum effect as your own engine and gearbox tries to overtake you, and then the inevitable tank slapper and the rather silly spin the other way.
Oh, Romain Grosjean on a track where he's had 2 podium finishes.
Sorry, the outlap was a mess.
Yeah,
sorry.
Understood.
Where he started in the top 10 in the last 3 years, puts an identical time into this man here, Fernando Alonso, but because Alonso did it first, the Spaniard goes through, the Frenchman puts his feet up. Let's head down to the pits. Paul Di Resta.
Yeah, Crofty, we're sitting here at front row seats, really, sitting next to Toto, and seeing exactly what's happening in Mercedes garage. Toto, did you manage to tune some speed into the car with it being a bit cooler, or do you suspect Ferrari have got this one covered?
We hope that we found a little bit of speed, but it's going to be difficult. We knew that pretty early on in the weekend, and it looks like the Ferrari is the quickest car at the moment, but we have Lewis Hamilton in the car and a little bit more to come, so let's see how close we can get, or maybe even be in the front.
Is this the point that you possibly think especially a counter strategy could work tomorrow? You know he's the right guy to overtake, but could be the difference, because the soft tyre looked well in the long run yesterday.
Yeah, let's see which tyres are being run in Q2 now for the start of the race. I think some others might have had the same idea.
Toto, thanks for letting us come in here and get the insight what's happened. I'll leave you to do your work and exactly what's happened. Over to you, Crofty.
It's me, actually, Paul, just for the moment with Johnny. But yeah, let's pick up with, well, start if you want with Grosjean. Yeah, 1:30.53, exactly the same time as you're saying as Fernando Alonso, as Martin had picked out. But of course, because Alonso got it in first, he goes through, but right on the last turn, just wide.
Yeah, again, he just gets hooked slightly on that sort of AstroTurf. He's fighting the car big time, and it just losing that drive. But what a brilliant battle that those two were having for 15th and 16th. So brilliant stuff. Again, running very wide once again. And as you said, very messy. Round this track, you get absolutely a big issue with that.
What do you think that's worth? How many tenths of a second? Because he was 9/10 off his teammate. So, I mean, elsewhere it must have been a little scrappy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was what he was saying on the radio. But coming out of that last turn, I think you're probably talking about half a tenth, probably maximum of 1. It really all depends how much wheel spin you get, because you lose all that drive up until the line.
Okay, well, the obvious headline, though, from that session wasn't Grosjean, it was Max Verstappen I mean, it's an uncharacteristic mistake. He made one, though. He span in Australia and just got himself out of position, Johnny.
Yeah, and I think it's one of these issues. It's very early in the lap. The tyres are very, very fresh. He's trying to get on the pad very early out of that sort of turn 2 there. And because the car's always under yours, it's always under a lot of load. Of course, all that power comes in, all that battery power at the same time, and it just spins up the car very, very easily there. But we know this boy is always driving on the very, very edge. Just go that little bit too far in the wrong corner, like we saw at there, turn 2. That's what's going to happen. You're going to hit the wall.
Does he know? I mean, I just wonder with Max, if he does have any Achilles, is it impatience? We keep coming back to it. You understand that he's driving on the limit all the time, and mistakes will happen, but you get the feeling that he's right on the edge this year. He wants to get so much out of it.
Yeah, he is on the edge, but then we don't have to go back to Brazil and qualifying with Lewis. You know, again, it's another driver that drives on the very, very edge, and every now and again it will catch you out. It's happened with the greats over all the years, but this is something experience will probably come into play for the rest of his career in Formula 1.
Party mode aside, Ferrari looked very good.
Very good, very good. I think that it's typical of that Ferrari. Looks very, very drivable. And that round this track with all those sort of undulating off-camber corners that you've got here, that's where you want the car to be able to react to exactly what's happening underneath you. When you can do that, you can pick the corners out and then obviously get out of the corners very good. But they do look very tidy.
Sorry, Dr. Marco, I didn't mean it. I
Wasn't my fault.
Back upstairs to Crofty.
So Max Verstappen then is through to Q2, as you said, Martin, but he hasn't quite got the car to go around the track, so he's going to have to watch on from the sidelines.
Bit of a reliant Robin, isn't it, unfortunately, with just the 3 wheels left and some work to do. They've got to prepare that now and get it into Parc Fermé for this evening and finish it off tomorrow morning when it's released. They are allowed to cover it up. They want to cover it up. They don't want anybody photographing it, and especially if it's got broken front wings and things like that, because it tears it apart, and there's all sorts of interesting things go through the front wings on Formula 1 cars, so they'll be very keen that that's not photographed and shared with the rivals. So Fernando Alonso gets through by nil margin, basically. Yeah. We saw Grosjean off the road at the end of his lap. He said he prepared the outlap incorrectly in terms of getting all the temperatures and pressures where he needed them, and it led Alonso off the hook, but he lives for another qualifying session. But Gasly again for Toro Rosso Honda inside the top 10, where he has consistently been through this event, Crofty.
Absolutely. Honda have brought an improved package to the Sakir circuit compared to this time last year with their association with McLaren. And yeah, 3 practice sessions so far. Gasly's been in the top 9 and quali 1. So the pit lane is open then, 15 are left, although Max Verstappen, despite having the 4th fastest time in Q1, won't be taking part in this session. The 5 that we've lost, Romain Grosjean, same time as Alonso, but because Alonso got there first, the Frenchman misses out. Marcus Ericsson, who out-qualifies his teammate Charles Leclerc once again. Are they electing a new pope down at Ferrari, or a bit of exhaust gas coming out there? It's a generator. We had that in practice as well. Ericsson out-qualifies Charles Leclerc, who had a bit of a spin on his final lap at the final corner. Sergei Sorokin out-qualifies Lance Stroll for the first time in Formula 1, and Lance Stroll, for the first time in his career in F1, is the slowest driver in Q1. Williams last season, Martin, Hungary, Belgium, Singapore, 2 cars, both out in Q1, and they've done it here in Bahrain.
Different days for Williams, isn't it? 18th and 20th on the grid, and you know they've got the Mercedes engine in the back of it, so they know where to look for the speed deficit, which is clearly the chassis. They've got the same tyres as everybody else and a decent donkey in the back there, so clearly well, it's almost always aerodynamics. Can be kinematics of the suspension and what have you, but it's the aero. That's what gives the drivers the grip, the confidence, the belief.
I don't think either driver really has the belief that they are seeking at the moment. These are worrying times, as you say, for Williams. They have not looked on the pace at all so far this weekend. Hardly the celebrations Paddy Lowe, their executive director technical, would want for tomorrow, his 56th birthday. It's not going to be one where there's going to be too much champagne popping.
Ferrari going out first. Down the end of the pit lane. There it is. With
Sebastian Vettel. And what tyres is he on? That looks to me like he's on the super soft tyre. He is.
Indeed.
Super soft as well for the two Renaults and for the Toro Rosso coming out of Gasly. And Kimi Raikkonen on the super soft tyre as well.
And what will Hamilton do? Remember, whatever you go through on in Q2 is what you start the race on. Will he do a counter strategy to who we perceive to be going to be on the front row of the grid, the two Ferraris, or maybe Bottas? What are they going to be? Is it going to be the
yellow
soft? It is.
Yellow soft.
So he will qualify and hope to get through to Q3 with the with a tyre that he thinks will run longer. It's a very good tyre around here, actually, isn't it? That soft has been a very good tyre in terms of pretty good pace and very good longevity and endurance. So that is what they're doing to try to recover the ground that Lewis will lose with his 5-place grid drop.
And is that one or two Mercedes, Paul di Resta, on the super soft tyre?
No, I think you've got to put Bottas on the super soft and then Hamilton on the soft. But we talked about this yesterday, Crofty.
Yeah.
Normally, you need to get, you go for the softest tyre to get off the grid. Hamilton's not worried that the simple fact of 4 metres the advantage. He wants 10, 12 laps extra on that first stint to get in some nice free air, turn the engine up and go, and he can compromise his race and have it at different points as he did last year. It's the only way they're going to make the difference. Now, the reason they're going out so early is to see if it's good enough. I think it'll be more than good enough because that tyre is working well, but they can go back to the super soft and have another attempt should they feel they're in danger.
And why they go so slowly on the out lap is that the tyre has a plastic quality to a certain extent. You only really want to bring it up to full temperature just before you start the lap and get maximum grip through, hopefully, all 15 corners. But sometimes it might only be 10 or a dozen before you start to lose grip again. And you don't want to take that life out of the tyre on the out lap, but you do want it to be ready to go when you floor it into the pit straight to start your quali lap.
Nice and warm, but not sweating. Basically, you don't.
You could put it that way.
You don't want to over-ripen it. It's just, we've all been sweating.
You could put it that way. That you did.
And I did.
This has got some grip.
It'll be all right for up until about turn 13. That's where they start to lose it a bit.
He was a little bit hesitant into the hairpin there. It really was. He had to coax that in. How's it going to be in turn 10 hairpin?
Now, plenty of locked up throughout the weekend here, but not Sebastian Vettel, who, by the way, was a 10th up on his teammate Kimi Raikkonen through that first sector. 4/10ths up on Carlos Sainz, half a second up on Hülkenberg, bit more to Alonso as well.
I'd love to throw a car into turn 11 that fast. Absolutely full throttle through there. That's quite a big ask. A very wide turn in here. Pick up the throttle because you've got a long straight, slightly down here. You can lean on the outside of the track, and then you can throw it all away. All the brilliance can be gone by getting too greedy on the brakes here. You want to pick up the throttle early, lean on as much curb on the outside as you can get, keep the car straight on the left-hand side of the track. Boom.
And little between Vettel and Raikkonen so far on this lap is a 1:28.3 from Sebastian Vettel. We are now breaking the absolute lap record here at the Sakir circuit. Kimi Raikkonen now responds with a 1:28.3, 1:28.5 for him. Couple of tenths down. Valtteri Bottas, well, was 2 tenths down through the first 2 sectors and then double that through the last one as well. Looking now to Lewis Hamilton, who through the first sector, Martin, matched Sebastian Vettel's 28.1.
Good. Bottas then.
So yeah, Bottas still going. He was a couple of tenths down first sector and now the second sector. Has been losing time all the way through. Yeah, 2 tenths every sector in that Mercedes to the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel.
Indeed. So they can't get anywhere near Ferrari, can they? On the so just watching something else. They cannot get near the Ferrari on single lap pace.
No,
Mercedes.
not on the super soft they can't. But Hamilton just put the fastest middle sector in. As you were talking there, Martin, that he then went through the second sector. This might be on a par with Sebastian Vettel. That's back with Bottas for a couple of seconds. Yeah, here's Lewis Hamilton now to cross the line. Can that time of 1:28.3 be beaten? Not quite. 1:28.4 for Hamilton.
What a cracker then. That is on those tyres. So that tells you he could go fastest in Q3, but won't start on pole, of course. But that's the lap of the weekend so far.
I wonder if that tells me as well, if you're on the Ferrari pit wall, you're on the Red Bull pit wall, do you now respond and say, if we could go better than a 1:28.3, we might want to start the soft tyres as well.
Yeah, they've got another run. 8 minutes to go. They can change. They're all in the warmers.
Oh, I run out of energy.
Understood, understood. In call confirmed. Box. Pit confirmed.
It means the battery pack, I'm assuming.
Yeah, not him.
Not him.
He's trained for the whole session, I'd have thought.
Yeah, I think a lap of hair, they could do that in their sleep. But yes, so what he means is he over-deployed his battery pack. It's about 160 horsepower of battery pack for 32 seconds a lap.
Roughly.
So enough power to power your family car at a good rate of knots, and that's just the battery pack.
Internal combustion engine with it. You're up to around about 1,000 brake horsepower. Fernando Alonso needs a little bit more, 3/10 to safety.
And it's the torque these things got that's incredible. When I drove the Mercedes, it just frightened me, just relentless. I thought it was going to take off. I didn't take my foot off the throttle. I thought this thing's just going to go faster and faster and faster until it takes off. But horsepower, there's an expression, the horsepower is how fast you can punch, torque is how hard you can punch.
I'll tell you who is punching quite hard still. Toro Rosso and Pierre Gasly. We're watching Brendan Hartley coming in. Damage to his front wing after the first round of qualifying, but where's his teammate? Up in 6th place. He's a second and a half back to Sebastian Vettel, but the Toro Rosso Honda, 6th place at the moment in Q2, looking to give Pierre Gasly, the way this is going, his first ever Q3 start.
Well, I think it'll almost be a disappointment if Gasly's not in Q3. He's certainly earned it in terms of his performances through the practices and qualifying so far.
6/10 faster than a McLaren as well.
We almost daren't approach that subject, but it does seem that a Toro Rosso Honda could well out-qualify one or both of the McLarens here. If both Toro Rosso Hondas out-qualify both McLarens, you're going to have to mention that, Crofty.
Well, Eric Boulier is on the pit wall with us this weekend. We'll get him on in a minute. We're at a safe distance to mention that. He can't get at us for a while, but I'm sure he's already noticed it. It's going to make uncomfortable watching, isn't it, for a McLaren team that in Australia, well, proved right. Yeah, we went with Renault, and that worked very well for us indeed. But I'm expecting, I'm sure, the Toro Rosso response for this weekend. So here's the dilemma, though, Martin. So McLaren and Toro Rosso aside, Mercedes have made the call with Lewis Hamilton, soft tyre. Valtteri Bottas on the super soft. What do you do now if you're Mercedes, you're Red Bull, Ferrari, and what should the difference be between soft and super soft tyres? Because one seems to be working very well indeed at the moment, and it might not be the red stripes.
Do you react, or do you stick with all of the data, all of the knowledge you've collected so far through this event, and go with where you expect to start the Grand Prix? You want the extra couple of meters that the super soft tyres will give you down to the first corner with more grip off the start. Do you stick with it, or do you knee-jerk into doing something else? We'll find out shortly. I think they'll stick with what they intended to do rather than react to Hamilton. But that is, he didn't need super soft tyres, but it was a superstar lap.
Yeah, I mean, was it a superstar lap, or was it the tyre helping him along as well? Who knows that answer?
We do know it's a great tyre around here. It's just been working well, hasn't it? That yellow mark soft.
If there's one thing that Australia proved, better to have two cars against one when you're fighting to win a race.
Yeah.
That's what Ferrari had against Mercedes. It meant they could split a strategy and could cover off all bases. That's what they did. When the virtual safety car appeared, it was Sebastian Vettel who was now on the better strategy rather than Kimi Räikkönen, and no blame attached to what they did with Kimi, because that was the right thing to do at that time. So if you're Kimi, could you go faster than a 1:28.5, which is his current fastest time, on a set of soft tyres, still be ahead of Hamilton on the grid, because he's got a 5-place grid penalty, and then you've covered off a Mercedes, you've split your strategy?
Or do you need to go out at all?
Well, that is the other thing. Do you save a set of tyres for the race and get that extra enjoyment, extra benefit of a few laps without using the tyre? Who says there's no strategic variance these days?
So all the usual suspects coming up, the ones we expected. So will we see any of the big guns, the top 3?
Well, Gasly is out, and he's currently 6th fastest. Above him, Bottas, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Vettel, all staying in the garage. Just under 3 minutes to go, and I'm not seeing many signs of activity, Martin, from within the garage. They've got the screens up at Red Bull in front of Max Verstappen's car. It doesn't look like the others are coming out. Oh, hang on a minute. Lewis Hamilton coming out on a set of super soft tyres.
Well, well, well.
What is that about?
Is that a double bluff then?
Valtteri Bottas is out as well. Paul di Resta.
Was that a double bluff?
Yeah, just when you're talking about Gasly there, Crofty, if he kind of got driver of the weekend so far, he's outperformed his teammate by a long way. Carlos Sainz must be getting nervous with the job he's doing, because obviously with the musical chairs going on with Danny Rick, he's putting himself in a prime spot with the advantage he's got over his teammate. And the Red Bull programme think quite a lot of Hartley. He's kind of outshining by a long way, and I think in contention quite possibly for the big seat.
He's putting himself in the frame. Of that there is no doubt on that one. On a track he's got pole before, Martin. He's revelling in it this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lewis Hamilton then comes out, having done the stunning lap time, got himself into Q3 with the contrary strategy, comes out on the super softs.
Right.
And if I could explain that, I would. But whether they were trying to dupe the others into reacting to that, as we were talking about, we'll find out.
See, I'll answer this question, or you can answer this question, if he completes the lap or not.
Maybe he'll abandon that lap.
Because
he doesn't need those tyres in the race.
No, and it might just be that he's setting up a car with tyre pressures to go as high as he can in Q3.
Yes, he could be just getting experienced and getting it, as you say, just right, and a head start into how the car is feeling for a good Q3 time. So there's a very good chance he could abandon that lap right at the end.
Bottas was only a 1/10 of a second. Sorry, it was a second up on Pierre Gasly. I'm not quite sure why he's out there either. Hulkenberg goes 6th fastest, ahead then of Gasly, but Bottas very much safe then because Hulkenberg couldn't usurp him. Carlos Sainz still out on the track. We can pick him up now.
It was going very slow with the Renault, wasn't it?
Across the line.
There. That's all right.
Nicely done, Carlos Sainz. Renault targeting Q3, of course, with both of their drivers, and Carlos Sainz goes 7th fastest. So Hulkenberg 6th, Sainz 7th at the moment. Esteban Ocon on the cusp, as you can see, of dropping out here with his teammate Sergio Perez right behind him. What of Stoffel Van Dorn and Fernando Alonso? Van Dorn, who made his debut here for McLaren in 2016, finished 10th on debut. Can he get into Q3, I wonder?
It's not fast enough at the moment. The first 2 sectors need to be something mighty.
Well, he's got his foot to the floor. The Renault power is making it a gain, but not a gain enough. And he crosses the line in 13th, and Fernando Alonso misses out. 11th fastest for him. Gasly in the top 10 is now 9th fastest as Kevin Magnussen goes 7th fastest. Esteban Ocon will be next to cross the line. You can see the pink Force India does cross the line, stays 10th fastest. So who's behind him that could usurp that? Not Sergio Perez, sadly for Perez. He misses out on the top 10. Ocon stays in it for Force India. Brendan Hartley crosses the line, goes 11th fastest, misses out by 9/100ths of a second. Oh dear, that was so disappointing for him. Then Valtteri Bottas crosses the line. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, just making his way around the final corner, and he can still cross the line. His time's not going to beat the 1:28.4 that he's on at the moment. Disappointment for Perez. Hamilton does, in fact, finish the lap. So 1:29.5 in the end on those super soft tyres. And McLaren don't make it into Q3. Toro Rosso do.
Yeah, with one car. Anyway, Hartley just missing out. And I think Force India will be mighty relieved to get Ocon into the top 10. But I thought it was Perez who'd got the new aero parts on his car.
He has.
So Ocon has out-qualified Perez. And another stellar performance from him. Hulkenberg gets himself right in there, so Renault turning up and making it count when it mattered most, with 2 cars in the top 10 shootout. Magnussen continuing a great season there. And of course, Verstappen nailed in 15th place.
Had to wait a while, Kevin Magnussen, for his Q3 appearance. In Australia it came for the first time since Brazil in 2014, when he's made it back-to-back races into Q3. Fernando Alonso has his best start for McLaren since he left Ferrari to rejoin them here in Bahrain. I should say the best start, but only 13th.
Okay, Brandon, hard luck, P11, hard luck, P11.
Yeah, probably made a mistake last corner.
And that was hard luck. He missed out by 9 100ths. Eric Boulier live on the McLaren pit wall. We can go to you. I mean, Eric, that's double disappointment, is it? That not only did you miss out on Q3, but Honda and Toro Rosso got their driver through.
Well, yeah, obviously it's not based on the pace we had this morning in P3. You know, it's a bit of a surprise. So I think there is a need for a big investigation. Obviously, the last lap of Fernando found some pace in sector 2 and sector 3, which obviously would have helped earlier. I don't know. We need to find out what's going on.
What are the drivers report? I mean, you're only 2/10 off the top 10 shootout, but what are the drivers reporting on the radio?
Nothing actually. I mean, the balance is fine. I mean, obviously it's a lack of grip, but they don't report anything. I mean, lack of grip is my conclusion, obviously, for the poor performance, but they don't complain about anything else.
We're just seeing a replay now, Eric. Stoffel making a mistake on that final flying lap, which would have cost him a few tenths.
Yeah, I mean, he did a mistake in I think the 2 laps, but if you look at Fernando, he doesn't obviously report anything wrong.
So for tomorrow's race then, you've got options and maybe points to come, but is there a tinge of disappointment that it's the Honda and the Toro, but it's the Honda and the Toro Rosso that have beaten you really to get into Q3?
No, obviously we know that they are doing a good job. I mean, we were struggling last year in Bahrain as well. I guess there is something which we need to investigate for this layout, but there is a long season, you know, so our pace in Australia was not a dream, you know, it was real in the race. So we see tomorrow, obviously we know the race pace is better, and then the 1 lap qualifying pace, but we need to find out why, and obviously I'm going to ask some questions at the factory.
Yeah, in the week, Fernando was saying forget the midfield, we'll be leaving them for dead soon, we're looking at the top 3, so he's going to be a very disappointed driver, and if he didn't have his crash helmet on, he'd be scratching his head, I'd imagine, with that performance. Eric?
Well, I guess he is, you know, but like all of us, to be honest, I mean, I'm a bit astonished. And like all of us on the pit wall, you know, we need to understand what happened.
Eric, thanks ever so much indeed for joining us, and we look forward to speaking to you tomorrow throughout the race. So the 5 out, Verstappen, Van Dorn, Alonso, Perez and Hartley. Pierre Gasly into Q3 for the first time on a track where he once took pole in an F2 race as well. And we're just looking at a piece coming off the back of a Ferrari there, Martin.
You never know whether they flicked it up off somebody else or whether it's source. It looks like it gets another little helping hand and smashed to bits. That can cut your tyre in a hurry.
Sergio Perez, he missed out then on Q3. Sebastian Vettel, even with that little mishap, is through with the fastest time. Simon.
When Eric Boulier says no, he's not disappointed that his teammates or his team was beaten by the Honda Toro Rossos, I think he probably means yes, he is disappointed. But yeah, there we go. Certainly Fernando Alonso not particularly happy that he's out in Q2. Let's move on though and hear from a couple that were out in Q1. Leclerc's spin perhaps spoiling Stroll's lap. Let's hear from both drivers.
Charles, we heard you be quite hard on yourself there at the end of the session after that error. A disappointing first segment.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. I mean, the weekend looked very good yesterday, and we expected to do the jump we did in Melbourne from Friday to Saturday, and we did not really. Car was a bit hard to drive, but anyway, the error in the last lap is my fault. It will not have changed much because I don't think we will have gone into Q2, not like in Melbourne. But it's just a shame to do an error like this.
The car looks like it's making a bit of progress, however. Reasons for optimism tomorrow, to have a good race.
Yeah, I mean, during the rhythm of race, I mean, during the race simulations yesterday, we were looking better than on quali pace. So let's hope it can be the same tomorrow and to have a good position at the end of the race.
Lance, it's been a difficult weekend for the team, and that continued into the first stage of qualifying there.
Yeah, for sure. We need more.
And what areas in particular are where the car is struggling?
Everywhere. General grip, entry, exit, mid-corner, everything.
And how quickly do you believe that the team can get on top of these problems and start making some real progress up that midfield?
Hopefully very quickly.
That's as angry as I've seen him. His father's certainly not particularly happy with the way things are going down at Williams, starting from the back of the grid. Let's get back upstairs, but in the meantime, let's hear from Pierre Gasly, so he had to say over team radio.
We are in, Pierre. We are in P9. So that's great news.
So Gasly inside the top 10, but who will take pole? Crofty, or yours again?
Vettel, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Bottas, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Gasly and Ocon contesting the top 10 there, Martin. Only 3 Mercedes-powered engines in Q3. In the first year of the turbo hybrid era, they had 7 here in Q3. Maybe shows you just how much the rest have caught up.
Mercedes would say, well, and so why do you need to change the regulations at all? It's the playing field is becoming level. Let's just stick with what we've got.
All right, so Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg for the Works Renault team. More of that smoke, isn't it? That, once again, it's not outside, it's not coming from the garage of Raikkonen or Vettel. It's coming from right next door to it, I think.
Are you sure, Crofty?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Why would they start a generator up right at the same time as they start the car up? Because you're being kind to the Ferrari there.
Because they've been doing it all day, and I don't know why.
Well, they've been coming out of the garage all day.
Yes, well, yeah, they have.
If there was a generator making that kind of smoke, it would be thrown out of the place, wouldn't it? It would be. You're being kind to Ferrari there. It smokes when it starts up.
Yes, it does, but it's not coming from the garage. Whether they've got some sort of venting thing going. This morning in practice, I looked down and the smoke came about 50 seconds before the car made any attempt to move.
Maybe it's Maurizio Rivabene with a shisha pipe or something. It's the car. It starts up and it smokes. Oil gets in the turbo somehow, doesn't it? Sits in the exhaust? I don't know.
Where's Paul di Resta when I need him? He's down there on ground level. I mean, we actually can't see him at the moment through the fog.
At the start of every qualifying sector, a generator mysteriously pours smack out of the garage.
It's a double bluff. That's exactly what it is.
Mind you, everybody, they'll have the last laugh because I think they're about to smash the opposition with speed.
Look, there it is. So
yeah.
It's coming from
the generator.
The next garage.
It's the others.
It's a blank garage that the cars aren't in, but it belongs to Ferrari.
They have exhaust pipe. They vent it around. They vent the back of the car.
Right. So it's coming from the back of the car, but from another garage.
Or maybe they send the car out every time there's a smoke, so the drivers are not taking the smoke in, and that's just a coincidence that the car fires up.
Maybe the Maranello Amateur Dramatics are doing Hound of the Baskervilles. I don't know, to be honest.
Right, here comes a hot lap. Show us what you can do.
Yeah.
Seb Vettel, what have you got? Well, I think this could be quick.
He's been smoking so far, in and out of the garage. And the absolute lap record has already gone here in Bahrain this evening. So look at that 128.3 as a benchmark for Sebastian Vettel to chase, and the rest as well.
He didn't trouble the apex tarmac there, unfortunately, of turn 1.
Kimi Raikkonen starting his hot lap as well. Valtteri Bottas will be the next driver out on the track, then Ricciardo, and then Sainz, and then Hamilton is out there. And if you are just joining us for qualifying, 5-place grid penalty for Lewis Hamilton to remind you about. 28.0 for Sebastian Vettel in the first sector. That's a 10th up on his previous best.
Still interesting with the kinematics of the suspension. How they can be going around a left-hand corner and sparking from the right-hand side of the car and vice versa. But anyway, clearly some interesting stuff going on there with the suspensions. DRS wide open down the back straight.
And Kimi Räikkönen matches his teammate through the first sector. Both Ferraris putting in a 28.0. Valtteri Bottas puts in a 28.1, so he's a little bit closer to the two Ferraris than he was in Q2. 28.9 for Gasly in the Toro Rosso and a 28.3 for Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull. Back to the middle sectors, Vettel with a 37.8, well ahead of Gasly in the Toro Rosso. We wait for Kimi Räikkönen's middle sector time. It'll come in a moment. 37.8.
Out there. Oh, it's not the place to be.
He's gone too wide. He's lost time. That means that Kimi Räikkönen might just have the advantage for Ferrari as Vettel crosses the line with a 1:28.1. It's fast, but his teammate might actually be faster because Kimi didn't go wide through that turn 13. Onto the main straight now. He's never been on pole position before in Bahrain. He's on pole at the moment. 1:28.1. Kimi Räikkönen ahead of Sebastian Vettel.
Fastest ever lap of this circuit we've just seen, and they can go faster still, I suspect.
Here's Valtteri Bottas next in the Mercedes that won't get the grid penalty for this weekend. He crosses the line now, and he can't match either of the two Ferraris. Third fastest and third fastest only. Daniel Ricciardo next to cross the line. Ricciardo in fourth place. So it's Bottas and Ricciardo provisionally on the second row at the moment, and all eyes now turn to Hamilton.
Yeah, but all eyes turn to the second run as well. Only 3/10 covers the top four at the moment.
So can Hamilton put himself in the mix and try and win qualifying? He is up there, third fastest behind the two Ferraris, and if that was the case at the end of this qualifying, you go back to just behind Carlos Sainz for Lewis Hamilton with that 5-place grid penalty. But there is plenty to go for when they come out again.
Hamilton desperately needs to get pole, doesn't he? Provisional pole to launch his penalties from there.
He did have the fastest final sector.
So 0.3 of a second covers the top 5. That's all to play for.
Yeah. But as you saw, Martin, one little mistake from Sebastian Vettel cost him. He only missed out there on provisional pole by 9/100ths. Paul di Resta.
Yeah, that one little mistake, Crofty. It's looked like when we've been in comms all weekend, 4, 5, 10s when you run wide. You just can't get the power down when you're on that carpet. So you've kind of got to say Sebastian Vettel will play it safe at that last corner on his last attempt, but I think it should be enough should he get a clear lap together.
Well, quite, but if you're Kimi Räikkönen, how much confidence, Martin, are you now going to have going into this second run?
I mean, he managed to keep the throttle pinned on that particular one. Yeah, that's where it understeered a little bit wide for him. He could still accelerate, but I wouldn't think it's 4 or 5/10s, but there's clearly some more pace. I mean, you can take more speed through the apex. Your minimum speed's touch higher, so you gain on the way in. But clearly, you're not picking up the right amount of traction on the outside there. But a clean lap from Vettel, I agree with Paul, should be the fastest of those first runs. But one more Räikkönen got left, and can Hamilton usurp the pair of them with his party mode, his happy hour, whatever he likes to call it, from turning up his engine? And has he got any more to turn up?
Conditioning of the tyres, of course, has that big impact as well, getting them working in the absolute sweet spot to cope with the whole of the lap, not just for the first corner of 15.
Only allowed to refuel the cars in the garage, and it's quite a slow process actually these days, intentionally so. And of course you don't want to carry half a kilo or anything like that more fuel than you need to in qualifying. You just need to be able to get out, get your hot lap in, get back to the pits and have enough fuel for a sample under the regulations. And Daniel Ricciardo there, I think he'll be satisfied with that 28.4. He's found half second from Q2, and if he could find a little bit more, he might be the surprise of the qualifying.
Well, quite. At the moment, second row, and second row would certainly suit Red Bull. I'm sure it suits Ricciardo that on a personal level it's his teammate that is not part of the fray here. And of course move up when Hamilton takes his penalty. Renault sending their cars out early once again. In formation.
In formation, so one of them's going to be compromised on their outlap a little bit as they back off. But are they hoping they can pick up a slipstream down the pit straight? And one's released the other. So Hülkenberg goes in front. And the problem with this is, let's say Hulkenberg locks a break into turn 1 and the yellow flags come out, it compromises both cars then when you send them out line astern like that. Valtteri Bottas.
He comes out ahead of his teammate. No smoke coming from any of the 3 Ferrari garages, so they're staying there for a while, as is Daniel Ricciardo as well. Now the mechanics rush out into the pit lane to tell Hamilton all is okay and he can come out as well. Ferrari just waiting a little bit, because you don't want to wait too much, because the last thing you want is to have cars, too many cars in your way when you're on a hot lap.
Your air lap's going to be about 2 minutes, time you've navigated the pit lane and not taken too much out of your tyres preparing the car. So, you know, you've got about another half minute yet to get out of the pits. What you don't want to be doing is being out on your warm-up lap, getting in everybody else's way and taking a penalty and compromising your approach to your ultimate lap.
So much to do as a driver to make sure you are in that perfect zone. You don't want any agitations from exterior forces.
Yeah, the workload in the cockpit is extraordinary on these on the out laps going to the grid.
Where that time is in the last sector. You are purple in the final sector.
Okay.
I've got an old message, I'd imagine.
I would have thought so, yeah. So Lewis Hamilton then, of course, taken pole here in Bahrain before, but won't be doing that today. His teammate Valtteri Bottas was on pole last year and is still just about in the mix to do it again 12 months on. Ferrari, who haven't taken pole here since Felipe Massa in 2007, have a front row lockout at the moment. Last time they had that was here with Schumacher and Massa in 2006, and Red Bull, who haven't been on pole since 2012, are still fighting for their survival.
Good reminder there, if you bring youngsters or anybody to the track, bring some earplugs as well. So Raikkonen versus Vettel then. Big showdown at Ferrari. Can Hamilton minimise some of his penalty pain as well by getting on provisional pole? Can Bottas get ahead of or amongst the Ferraris? And is there anything left for Ricciardo to spoil the party in the first 2 rows of the grid?
And the last driver to be quickest in qualifying but not start on pole, the great Michael Schumacher at Monaco in 2012, also in a Mercedes, also had a 5-place grid penalty on that day. Only Mercedes and Renault powered cars have taken pole in Bahrain this decade. Valtteri Bottas 28.0 matches what Raikkonen and Vettel did on their first runs with a first sector time that his teammate Lewis Hamilton is 5/100ths off.
Yeah, 28.1 for Hamilton, 28.0 for Bottas. So Bottas has certainly hooked it up in the first part of the lap. Does that mean he'll lose a bit of time later on? Vettel even faster in the first sector on a 27.9.
So Kimi Raikkonen then just making his way through turn 2. Can he match his teammate? It's a great teammate against teammate battle with Daniel Ricciardo, the lone Red Bull, in this Q3 session as well. On board with Lewis Hamilton, hanging on through the left-hander.
I took so much speed to then just pick the throttle up immediately. It was almost full throttle straight away.
Vettel is slightly up on Kimi Raikkonen through that first sector. Still nothing in it though, as Hamilton comes and takes the line in a moment after his teammate Valtteri Bottas, who goes second fastest. So he split the 2 Ferraris for the time being. Vettel going even quicker through that middle sector. It's Hamilton who's going to be next, as down the main straight he comes, and Hamilton can only make 4th on the grid or in qualifying as his best. So now it's down to Raikkonen, to Vettel and to Ricciardo. Here comes Sebastian Vettel. It'll be his 200th Grand Prix start in Formula 1, and at the moment it's on pole position. Can Kimi Raikkonen beat his teammate? We shall see. Daniel Ricciardo next across the line, 5th fastest at the moment for Daniel Ricciardo. Can he go ahead of Lewis Hamilton maybe? Can get back onto that second row by right. Kimi Raikkonen in the background, making his way around the final turn. Ricciardo doesn't improve. Here comes Raikkonen, crosses the line now, and it's Sebastian Vettel Vettel in his 200th Grand Prix start that will start on pole position. Well done as well to Pierre Gasly, 6th fastest for Toro Rosso Honda, ahead of Magnussen in the Haas, Hülkenberg in the Renault, Ocon and then Sainz in the other Renault. But it is hats off to Sebastian Vettel here in Bahrain. His last pole here, 2012, and in 2018, it's a Ferrari that he'll start at the front of the grid in.
Well earned. He telegraphed that in his first run. Apart from that error in the last corner, he's made it stick. Bottas couldn't quite get amongst the Ferraris. I did not expect Hamilton to launch his 5-place grid drop from 4th on the grid. So Ricciardo will start 4th. Gasly, what a star, the star of qualifying. Surely Pierre Gasly for Toro Rosso Honda will start the Grand Prix in 5th place after Hamilton takes his penalty.
P5, Honda have not had a P5 start in a dry qualifying in the turbo hybrid era. That'll be the first time a Honda engine will start 5th in the turbo hybrid era. Jenson Button started the Australia Grand Prix 3rd, I think, but that was wet dry.
Yes, P1, pole position. That was a lion lap.
Well done. Grazie ragazzi. Oh, I had it on the first run and then I tossed it away in the last corner, so kept it together. Grazie a tutti. Grande macchina sta weekend.
Well, the Lion wasn't sleeping tonight, and it wasn't even a tight fit in the end, was it? Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen separated by over 1/10 of a second. Raikkonen to Bottas, just 2/100ths in it. And how Mercedes would dearly have loved Valtteri Bottas on the front row for this race. Try and get amongst the Ferraris, but it's a lockout for the Scuderia.
So Hamilton will start 9th. I mean, he's got to clear something like Ocon, who's got some good pace down the straights, hasn't he? Gasly in the Toro Rosso has been the fastest car in a straight line as well through much of the weekend. So that's not going to be the easiest thing to pass for Lewis Hamilton, assuming he can get up there in his Mercedes.
I was looking at the speed traps earlier, and he was, what, 2.4 miles an hour after the fastest trap speed of Force India. So they were quickest in the trap, but he wasn't far off it. Johnny Herbert is with the pole sitter.
One of those brilliant qualifying sessions, and it's this man who is on pole position. Nice smiley face. You must be a happy boy.
Yeah, let me breathe. Yeah, I mean, quite intense. First run in Q3, I was very happy, and then I tossed it away in the last corner. So, no, really happy that I got the second run and got it clean, and I knew the last corner I just need to stay away from that curve, and yeah, then obviously you're looking around trying to see where the others are. So very happy. The car was excellent all weekend so far, so yeah, looking forward to tomorrow.
Well, we're going to talk about the car because these guys, your mechanics, have done a brilliant job for you, but when we look at her, she just seems to do everything you needed to do today, and that seemed to be that comfort factor you had.
Yeah, I mean, you know best. If the car is responding to what you want it to do, then it's a pleasure. Otherwise, it's a fight. So I think Australia was more of a fight. I think we worked on the balance. We looked into it quite a lot, and yeah, I think we improved it as well yesterday, today, even though it's not easy because we do the practice session when the sun is up, and then qualifying and races when the sun is down. But yeah, the car was responding, so very pleased.
It's good to see that smile on your face. And Kimi, got Kimi Raikkonen second on the grid. Oh, that was a battle and a half. How are you feeling now? A little bit of disappointment, I guess, but that was a good performance for you this weekend.
Well, for sure, not ideal. Apart from ideal in the last run with the traffic, but you know, what can I do?
Yeah, what can you do? But again, everything seems to have started strong for you this season. It was unfortunate for you in Australia, but when we come here, you look more at home than I think we've seen you for a long time. You know, there's millions of people around the world, I think, who support you big time, and this is maybe a start of something, you know, coming good for you.
Well, we'll see. Obviously, it's one Saturday. Tomorrow is the main thing, and tomorrow is the time when we get the points or we don't get the points. So obviously, see what we can do then.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's got a lot of support behind you. We're going to walk over to the man, third position, Valtteri. Happy with that performance today? You beat your teammate, which is great. I know you had pole position last year, but these two guys in red, they were strong today.
Yeah, I think, you know, it felt okay. The laps were okay and getting better towards the end, and in Q3 when you need to put everything together, got it more or less. So I think these guys with the red car, they're just a bit too quick. So we can't be happy with this. So we're looking forward to tomorrow.
Okay, but tomorrow is something, you know, you can sort of focus yourself on a total different scenario because race pace looks a bit better than what happened in qualifying.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close race. I think even with the Red Bull, you know, so yeah, and Lewis and Dan, Max coming from the behind, we'll see. It should be interesting.
Well done, well done. Seb, again, what a place. You're going to be starting right at the sharp, right at the front end, no one in front of you. You're going to be feeling pretty good, I think, once those lights go out.
Well, feeling good now. I mean, tomorrow is a different story. Obviously, it's a long race, and we've seen, you know, it's not easy to make the tires last. So, car is quick. That usually helps. So let's see when the lights go out. But for now, I'm very chuffed, and for the team as well. We had some issues this morning, but we overcame those. So, yeah, looking forward to tomorrow.
Very well done. And I have to say, you people have got to tune in tomorrow. We've got an absolute cracker coming our way because those two Ferraris are at the front, but you're going to get those McLaren, those Mercedes and the Red Bull coming into play as well. So please get tuning in tomorrow. It's going to be a great one.
And a first Ferrari front row lookout in Bahrain since 2006 when Michael Schumacher and Felipe Massa did it. All this to look forward to in the build-up to tomorrow's race.